Macro photography. It's one of those things I really enjoy a lot. And I think a lot of people have the perception that you need to have some form of an expensive lens to do it. I bought this one probably 3 or 4 months ago. It's my first true macro lens, and it was second hand, and it still cost me just over £500. So it just shows what sort of price these lenses go for. I was doing a fair bit of macro photography before I had that lens, and I was using basically a lens which was probably 20 years old, which is nothing special. And the way I got around that was I was using a set of extension tubes which are also over 20 years old. These are not even Canon brand, and they work absolutely fine on my Canon camera. Never had any issues with them whatsoever. They're a Jessop's brand, which at the time when I bought these were a high street shop in the UK, all over the country supplying photographic equipment, so it was their own brand. These are probably a fraction of the price of what I would have paid for a Canon. So this set that I've got here is actually 3 individual extension tubes that I can either use all together like that, or any combination of either 1 or 2 or 3 of them. I've got a 13mm, 21mm and a 31mm, so if I put the whole lot together I get a 65mm extension tube. So what does an extension tube actually do? It's really, as it says, there's nothing in the middle there whatsoever. It's just empty. And all this does is got all the pin connectors on one side and the pin connectors on the other side. So the idea is when I put on a basic lens, all those pin connections for that lens marry up where they should do on here, where they would normally on the camera, go through to the other end, which that then goes onto the camera. All it does is just really move the lens from being there at the camera so it's further away. And by doing that, it means you can actually get the lens a lot closer to focus. Now, if you want a true macro lens, so the first thing to do is look to see how close the lens can actually focus at. I mean, this 100mm macro will focus to 0.3 meters, which is 30 centimeters. And if you look at the Canon specs on this actual lens, it will tell you it's a 1:1 ratio. So if I get within 30 centimeters of an object, because it's fixed focal length of 100mm, the image on the sensor will be the same as the image that it's seeing through the lens, what they class as true macro. You can also buy other lenses which are classed as macro, but they may well be a wide angle lens. For example, I think Canon do a 24mm lens which is listed as macro because you can actually focus it within 14 centimeters of the subject, but the actual macro ratio on there is 0.5, so it's not really true macro. This particular lens, I mean, it's, as I said, it's a 20-year-old lens, 28 to 90mm, and the closest focus distance on this is 0.38 meters, so that's 38 centimeters. So I mean, even if you imagine at 90mm compared to the 100mm on there, which is not much difference, that 8 centimeters further away is going to make a difference. As I mentioned, the way you get over that is put one of these extension tubes on, then what it means is my 38 centimeter focusing distance drops a lot further down. I did have a quick look on MPB for second-hand extension tubes. The EF1, which is what my Canon fit lenses are, my older lenses, they do I think it's a 25mm one on there, and it's round about £50. Now you might think, well, okay, well you've got 65mm there, the 31, 21 and 13mm, but in actual fact, when I was using this lens, I think I had the zoom in around about 50mm, and I was only using one of these tubes. I think it was something like the 21mm extension tube. I found that if I was putting on more than the 21mm, then I was getting too close to the subject and I couldn't actually photograph the whole subject I was after. Now, there is no quality difference whatsoever by using an extension tube compared to a macro lens. The whole quality is based on what the optics of the lens are like. I'll just show some photos around here. The first images here of all the flower photos were actually taken with this round about 50mm, as I say, with one of these extension tubes. All the fungi images, which is what I've been doing a lot more lately, were all taken with the 100mm macro lens. When you're dealing with macro images, it's just the same as dealing with any photograph. You can deal with lighting as you like. The only thing you really have to worry about is that because you're that much closer to your subject, that the depth of field goes incredibly low. You may well find that especially when you get to that shortest distance for focusing, that the actual depth of field could be less than 1 millimeter. And there are ways around that. I mean, a lot of my images I do what they call focus stacking or focus bracketing. It's a feature built into my camera, which what it does, I focus on the nearest point of the subject that I want in focus. I tell it how many photographs I want it to take and how much I want to move the focus point, and it will basically sit there and it will then take one picture after another, just slightly moving the focus out by the distance I'd set. When it's done, the camera will, in actual fact, automatically merge all those pictures together to create the one image with the full focus for the full range. You can also stack those images in something like Photoshop. There's also free online versions as well, and there are also paid apps that you can do it as well, so you have a bit more control over it. Sometimes the stacking can be a little bit hit and miss. It really just depends on your subject. The software, whichever it doesn't matter whether it's the camera, Photoshop or online, can sometimes get confused as to which parts of the image are supposed to be in focus and which not, and when it merges them together it does sometimes create some hazy little bits. Going back to the minimal focus distance, for example, on my macro lens is 30 centimeters. That 30 centimeters isn't from the point of the front of the lens, which I will show in a moment. If you look on your camera, on the top of the camera, for any digital SLR or mirrorless camera, you should see a symbol similar to this. And where that line is basically the point on your camera where the sensor is capturing the image. And that mark, in actual fact, is where you take that minimum focal distance from. That 0 with the line through it on my camera is just on the left here, right there. So if I actually measure from there, which is where the tape measure is at the start there, to the front of the bottle, and it is just about 30 centimeters, which is the minimum focus distance of this lens. So you can see at the front of the lens, I have in actual fact got about 12.5 centimeters there. There is a calculation to work out what your magnification is you get. When you've got to actually know where in the actual lens body the main part of the lens is. Now I know that this one should be 15 centimeters. So therefore, I mean, if it means that my lens, because I'm 30 centimeters away from the subject, is sort of like just behind this red line. And so I've got 15 centimeters just behind the red line, and I've got 15 centimeters at the front. If you take the distance from behind the lens to the sensor, divide it by the distance from in front of the lens to the subject, that's your magnification. So I've got 15 divided by 15 equals 1. Now if this was a lot shorter and I've still got the same focus distance, so say for example I was 10 centimeters away at the back here and then 20 centimeters at the front, it would be 10 divided by 20, which then gives me a final magnification of 0.5. Just to show you how the minimal depth of field is on this, and I do have, I think, the lens on 2.8 anyway, but I can just turn the bottle just a very slight fraction and I can now see that the right hand side of the image is now at a focus where the left is still fine. So the important with macro photography as well is having a tripod, and ideally your subject stationary, because getting it in focus is going to be a big problem. So what I'm going to do next is flip over to this other lens. I'm going to first of all demonstrate without any of the extension tubes so you can see what we get. So this is a 28 to 90mm lens. As I mentioned, it's about 20 years old. Switch the camera on again. currently on autofocus, so I'm going to stick that on manual focus because I want to bring this down to its closest focusing point. And if I take this up to the 90mm, you can see how far back I've got to move this before it becomes in focus. Okay, that's now in focus, and that's 90mm compared to what was 100mm, but by moving it back probably 6-7 centimeters, then that's the actual difference in the actual image size. What I'm going to do this time is stick on one of the extension tubes, and I'm just going to go for the smallest one at the moment, the 13mm, just so you can see how much of a difference this makes. I'm at the closest setting on the focus, so all I've got to do is just drag this bottle in to see how much closer I can then focus. So that's there. So I'd now say that I am probably at the same distance as I was with the 100mm macro. So it's on a 90mm focal distance with a 13mm extension tube. I should now be where that focusing distance is. Yeah, just under 30 centimeters. So I'd say I'm exactly the same point as where I was with the 100mm macro. But you can see I've got less on the image. The image is certainly smaller than what it was with the 100mm macro. And it doesn't matter whether I zoom out. I mean, the thing is, if I zoom out as well, so if I take this down to 50mm, I'll in actual fact find that I can even focus closer. So before, the actual focal length on the zoom didn't make any difference where I could actually focus, but now I've got an extension tube in there. By reducing the actual focal distance from 90mm to 50mm, all of a sudden I can now focus a lot closer. And if I measure this again now, I'm now down to about 22 centimeters. So I've brought that in about 7 centimeters by going from 90 to 50mm. Image size, again, I would say is very little difference. So I'm going to take this right the way down to the 28mm, and I'm going to guess that I can't get close enough. Oh, there you go. There you go. I'm almost touching the front of the lens now. I'm now actually only 2 centimeters away from the front of the lens, which then causes other problems because it's then stopping light getting to the subject. Whereas the focusing distance now is down to 17 centimeters. In this case, I don't want to be on a wide angle because, again, the image is probably still about the same size. I haven't gained anything by getting closer, but I'm now restricting the amount of light I can get to it. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to stick on the 21mm as well as the 13mm. I'm still at the 50mm, but I should now be focusing a lot closer. There you go. And now you can see that the image is now filling the screen a lot more than what I had with the 100mm macro. But again, I'm actually still fairly close. So I've now reduced the focusing distance down to about 19.5 centimeters. So if I, in actual fact, take this up to the 90mm, move the bottle back, gives me that bit of freedom. So I'm at about 27 centimeters now with the focusing distance, and I've got probably a very similar image as what I have with the 100mm macro. So I'm now going to switch that off again and stick in the 31mm as well, so that will give me a total of 65mm. I'm still at 90mm, and where's this focusing distance gone? There you go. So now all of a sudden I've got the largest image I've had so far at 90mm. Focusing distance is now around about 27.5 centimeters, but in front of the lens I'm now down to about 7 centimeters. I've now gone back to my 100mm macro lens on here, and that's all I've got. So I've set the distance for the focus in here, and that is there, and I can see that I've got an image which basically shows the whole Mikado logo with the Quality Foods underneath. So I'm going to switch the camera off here, and just to see what difference this does, I'm just going to put the 31mm extension tube on as well. So, and now all of a sudden I should, even though I've had to move the item further back, I've now more than filled the screen on there. So my focus distance in actual fact has gone up slightly by about 2 centimeters, which is actually quite nice because it gives me a little bit more room for light, but the magnification has increased. So I know I've got roughly 18 centimeters behind the lens here to the sensor. Divide that by 13 centimeters at the front, and I should now have a magnification of something like 1.38. Even if you've got a macro lens, having an extension tube can help you to get that bigger image. Hopefully that's explained the basics with doing macro photography. Extension tubes, even if you've got a macro lens, might be worthwhile considering getting, because you can increase that distance between the lens and the image sensor, which means even more magnification. Hopefully this video has been of help to you. You might not have a macro lens and be thinking of getting one, but at the same time, even if you've got one or not, you might be thinking about the extension tubes. Thanks a lot for watching.